Welcome everyone to this week's episode of Next Slide Please with very special guest Joe Winter. Say hello, Joe.
It's me.
Joe is a fantastic TRPG designer and also present on a podcast with Natalie, Rolling with Rainbows, where they have lots of fun campaighing.
I actually hate the podcast. It's the bane of my existence.
Wow, Joe, I can't believe you'd say that right in front of me.
We're all thinking it. We're all thinking it.
We're going to put a bunch of links in the description and you will want to check them all out. But especially check out last week's episode where Joe told us all about combat juggling, which is
do you know what? They can actually click the eye at the top. Oh. We can do that with the video. We can do that.
Don't forget to click the little bell as well.
Yeah.
Bell.
Like, subscribe.
Video.
Don't comment though.
No, do comment.
We hate comments. Community engagement.
Especially the
Screw
comments. I really especially hate the comments that give us like extra interesting pieces of information. Focus should be on me.
Yeah, those are the worst.
The only comments we like are the ones that tell us we're good.
Yeah.
We don't want contributions, we just want praise.
Yeah. Tell me, gang, what do these three animals have in common?
They all respire and turn oxygen and sugar into energy.
Mm-hmm.
Do they all sweat blood?
They all give birth to they're all mammals.
Yeah,
that's true. They are all mammals. More specifically, they're all Artiodactyls, otherwise known as even-toed ungulates.
Wait, they're all pterodactyls?
Artiodactyls.
Artiodactyls.
Whales have toes?
Well,
Can't
exactly.
relate.
Here's our question.
Oh, because flippers are just
feet. Weird feet.
Yeah.
I hate this.
So, Artiodactyl is a monophyletic grouping of animals that contains.
Rach, what does monophyletic
Well,
mean?
we'll get there.
Well, okay. I can tell you that one.
Give me a second.
Okay.
This is a bit where I announce I also did study biochemistry. I feel like I should have mentioned this. Anyway.
So if you start saying stuff, you'll start cheating. Is that what you're saying, Joe?
Uh-huh.
Are you going to start cheating on this test?
Maybe.
Because this is now a test, by the way.
Oh, shit.
Contains animals such as boars and pigs, ruminant animals like sheep, anything that has a whole bunch of stomachs and chews for a really long time. Hippopotamuses, hippopotamus,
Hippopotato.
and whales. So the use value of the category Artiodactyl has been hotly debated, precisely because it contains whales. So that's monophyletic just means they've all got a common ancestor and you're not missing anything out. You could group them separately. You could call Artiodactyls a polyphyletic grouping and miss out cetaceans, which is whales, or you can call them Artiodactyls and just rename the whole group so that they all stay together.
So what is this episode actually about?
This episode is about how the hell did whales happen.
Okay.
Wow,
because you said a lot of big
always
words
wanted
and
to
I
know
didn't
that,
understand any of them.
I
But
really
I never
like
bothered
when
to look it
creatures
up.
evolve to live on land out of the water and then evolve back into the water again.
Yeah, that's just incredibly cool.
Fish have had it too good for too long.
Meet a couple of my little friends. On the right-hand side, we have my friend Indohius, who lived about 48 million years ago. He belongs to a very close sister group of the cetaceans. And as you can see by looking at him, not fantastically adapted for living in the water.
No.
Not at all.
He's got skinny little legs, probably not very
Were they
good at
that
swimming.
How are you even going to
particularly.
swim with those skinny little legs?
Is there a reason they chose to make him very vibrant green?
But I don't know if we got the colour from the fossil record or if this is just somebody being creative. But one thing that he does have going on for him is, and that you can't see from the outside, is he has quite dense bones. And what that means is he's not super buoyant. So he can go underwater and hide underwater fairly easily. On the left, we got my little friend Chevrotain, mouse deer, which do, if they see like a bird of prey, jump into the water and stay there for like 4 minutes.
Wow.
And then come back out, just, hide from predators.
But what about the predators in the water?
Yeah, this might be like in a little stream. I think they lived in fairly arid environments in a stream in like North India and Pakistan.
Okay.
Okay, now we've met them. This is an adaptation that is also shared by the I'm gonna say great niece of the Indohius, the hippopotamus, which is the closest living relative land animal to whales. And actually, they're much closer related to each other than they are to a lot of the other animals in the group.
So actually, a
like-
lack of buoyancy is an advantage to mammals trying to
hippopotamus
survive in water.
Hippopotamus is not very good at swimming, actually. It mostly just walks underwater and spends most of its day underwater just to stay out of the sun more
Wait,
than anything
so you're telling
else.
me that one BBC One animation was lying to me?
I was
Oh,
just
what
thinking
was
about
that? What
Were
was
they
that?
swimming-
Swimming round in
Well, they're swimming in
circles, like
circles.
underneath
Yeah.
looking
Oh,
up,
right.
just swimming.
Are you saying that's a lie, Ray?
Really, they
This
just
is
like
gonna be-
walk along in like shallow rivers.
This is going to
Yeah,
be
mostly.
incomprehensible to anyone outside the UK.
Sometimes we say things that are, and I
I trusted the BBC, and now that you've told me that their spinning round hippo thing was a lie, I can never
Wow,
trust
the
the BBC
BBC
again.
would just
You know,
go
the
and tell
transphobia
lies
didn't
like
incline me
that.
to them, but this hippo thing is the last straw.
Exactly.
That's
dare
actually
they?
the reason why it like sweats blood. It's not actually blood, but it
It's sun coloration.
because they've evolved to be under the water. They kind of have to be under the water now, so they don't end up with like skin cancer and stuff.
Oh,
and
that's-
that's just it's essentially sunscreen.
okay.
That stuff
That
that
makes
oozes and like
I thought-
antibacterial.
Wait,
I
Wow.
had
They
no
sweat
idea what
blood?
Jen was talking about when she was talking about sweating blood. I was like,
Wait,
what?
I missed that entirely.
I'm a genius. I may not look it, but I'm very smart.
But these are massive friggin' herbivores. They come out and they eat grass just when the sun's not out.
Right.
And they
They eat grass and people.
Yeah. These two animals would not have known each other though. Like hippos evolved like 33 million years afterwards. They're actually relatively young. 15 million years ago we find the first hippos. Okay, let's meet some more friends.
Okay.
This little wolf-looking fella is a Pakista, who was found in northern Pakistan. He, again, not super great at swimming. This is the first animal that we would say is an ancestor of modern whales, where the Indohius is like a sister group.
Mm-hmm.
But classified together with hippopotami under whippomorphs, which I think is quite good
Whippemorphs.
name for them.
Whippemorphs.
Yeah, whippomorphs.
Whippemorphs.
Like
That's great.
animorphs, but
Yeah.
there's a joke here somewhere.
It's like an animorph where the animal that they morph into is a whip.
A whippet. It does look a bit like a whippet, actually.
I don't know what a whip is.
They're like greyhounds.
A
Skinny
dog. I want one.
Yeah, this wolfy-looking little buddy probably spent more time in the water. It would have lived in streams in a fairly arid environment, in and around. And the reason I've got it next to this picture of a crocodile is because it has dorsal orbits, meaning its eyes are kind of on top, which leads to the idea that it was probably hunting in a kind of similar way to a crocodile, or at least hiding, like spending a lot of time in water
with its eyes poking above,
being
eyes
submerged.
poking out, so that it was mostly not visible. And it either ate fish or like land animals that come to drink, is the assumption. Again, like a wader, and its hearing would not have been great underwater either, because it didn't have directional hearing underwater. It's basically got most of its stuff is land stuff, you know.
So it's kind of got an amphibious life, but it is so it's sort of doing some functions in the water and other functions like on land.
Yeah. Exactly.
I love prehistoric mammals so much. I feel like dinosaurs get so much of a limelight, but there's so many cool weird mammals that sort of we just forgot about.
Love all the animals.
Yeah.
Love all the animals. They're so cool.
Yeah.
It's so cool how it happened. Now this crockier.
God is how it happened. About 6,000 years ago.
I love him so much.
This is Crocky Diva with a big old jaw, again, eyes on top of the head, slightly different position on top of the head, but on top of the head. Ambulocetidae, about 49 million years ago, would not have been great on land, honestly. It paddled mostly with its like legs behind it, and then probably couldn't really support its weight when it came onto land, so like moving more like a seal kind of situation.
Not great on land, but not really that great underwater either.
Yes, basically. Would have lived in bays and estuaries though.
Ambulocetidae.
Not Crocky Diva.
No, not actually Crocky Diva. Would have lived in like bays and estuaries, so it's heading towards the ocean, away from fresh water towards like a more saltwater environment. But something that it did have that modern whales have is like a fat pad under the neck that is used to help direct sound.
That's
to make just improved underwater hearing. Or we can assume from like the shape of its skull that it probably had that.
I love convergent evolution. It's so cool.
Well, but so we're talking about like convergent evolution and divergent evolution at the same time, because at the same time as this was happening, like, you know, things like deer were running around. So in the same family.
Yeah.
You've always got one odd person in the family who does something weird, like go into the sea.
Like return to the sea.
Now we're starting to see a little bit more diversity as well. So I've got a couple of different cousins.
That's a little ottery type guy.
I was gonna say it's like it's like
it's a bit hairy, isn't he?
Like a crocodile and an otter.
Yeah.
A crotter.
A crotter.
These are various species of Remington Cetidae named after a man named Remington.
Not named after the
unlike all the other names, lived like 49 to 43 million years ago. Fairly small eyes, indicating, or like eye sockets, meaning they probably weren't relying on their eyesight that much.
Very like platypus type kind of looking
starting
eyes.
to look kind of dolphin-y.
Yeah. They also had quite small, like semicircular canals which help regulate balance when you're on land. So it's speculated as like an evolutionary point of no return, because then from that point on they're just not going to be great on land.
Right. Committed to the ocean.
They had pretty short limbs and were pretty good swimmers, and for the first time are swimming by caudal undulation, which means they're not really paddling. Like previous ones were propelling themselves by paddling. These are propelling themselves by moving their body up and down. And you see fish move side to side, but because they're evolved from land animals that have, you know, used their spine like this to walk with, they go up and down.
That's interesting. I've never really thought about that distinction in terms of which way the tail moves. That's
a
whale.
A bit more whaley. We're starting to look a bit more whaley, aren't we? Protocetidae from 48 million years ago to 35 million years ago. Again, quite a diverse grouping, but they're the first group of these that really like leave the Indian subcontinent. Mostly we were talking about India and Pakistan before, but now they're traveling the goddamn world. And also you can see their nasal openings are starting to move up their head. Some of them
true, yeah.
had longer back limbs than others. Some of them had what are called, you see the bit on the end of the tail,
the fin
that spreads out. That's called a fluke. It probably some of them had those and some of them didn't. We can assume that they spent most of their time underwater, but we do know that they gave birth on land because we found fossilized Protocetidae, or at least some of them gave birth on land because they gave birth head first. We found fossils of them and if they were underwater, the animal would drown. So, whales give birth tail first. I don't know exactly, but like that seems to be accepted.
I don't think you'd want to give birth in salt water.
Yeah, that doesn't sound very pleasant, does it?
Sting, wouldn't it?
This bottom one does look like you asked a 6-year-old to draw a cow, but they don't really have a concept of what a cow looks like yet.
I mean, that looks a bit like what I would draw if you asked me to draw a cow.
Again, they are quite diverse. There's this one called Rhodocetus.
Rhodocetus?
That probably moved in a pretty seal-like way on land, but it had hooves.
Did you say
had like hooves at the back?
No way!
It's hilarious.
Well, what were they for?
It can carry
just vestigial hooves.
That's so funny.
They didn't use them for it. They used them for like moving underwater, but not.
Wow!
On land,
they just have hooves left over from being on land. That's wild.
And they were starting to have bigger eyes again, probably for watching prey and stuff. But what they didn't have is air-filled sinuses, which in modern
that's
whales,
what lets them rise and descend, right?
No, it helps to for directional hearing.
Oh, okay.
And that's basically where we meet our modern whales.
And when did they get the flag with the dragon on it?
Sorry.
Modern whales fall into two main categories. You've got your baleen whales, which filter feed mostly, or at least stuff goes through their baleen and they suck stuff in. And you got your toothed whales.
Predators.
That are
your sperm whales, your orcas.
Yeah, they diverged quite a long time ago and have their own kind of cool adaptation. Baleen whales have their baleen, which evolved whilst they still had teeth, and then at some point was just more efficient than having their teeth. But they also are the ones that sing, and they have pretty complex songs that can last up to like half an hour, involving different like phrases into themes, and they have their auditory range is specialized for hearing like those kinds of noises, so that affects their hearing as well.
As we learned from what's his name, Roundtree, was that the guy's name? The sounds they make when we listen to like whale song and stuff, that's been sped up so that it's at a frequency that we can
I didn't
hear.
know that. That's really interesting.
It's sped up.
Why don't you listen to our show? Why don't you watch our show? You'd know this if you watch next slide, please.
It was the episode about fish sounds.
I've been revealed as a fake fan. Oh, beans. Oh, this is embarrassing.
Baleen whales also have they have two blowholes, like nostrils, basically.
Sorry, I shouldn't laugh at that.
Where they do look like nostrils, whereas toothed whales have one blowhole. Obviously, they have teeth for chomping, and echolocation. So their hearing is specialized for hearing really high pitched.
Oh, so is that so? Are dolphins more closely related to toothed whales then?
Yeah, they are.
Are they? They're just little toothed whales. Okay, I never really considered the dolphin whale kind of distinction until now, but that makes sense. Dolphins are real bastards. They do some messed up stuff.
But yeah, they have like, especially compared to early whales, had really tiny brains. But like modern, dolphins have pretty big brains and pretty complex social organizations. To the extent that there are like, cultural differences between groups of dolphins. Dolphins are more likely to mate with other dolphins that engage in similar activities and behaviors that they do, even if they live in the same place.
It makes it worse because they know what they're doing.
So we've gone from Pakista, which is this like, land animal,
kind of a dog-looking
wolfy-looking thing. Yeah, dog-looking thing with a big weird head, to this blowhead whale with a freaking massive head and pelvis that is like disjointed from the spine, but still there.
Wait, is that thing that's circled the pelvis?
I think so. In male whale, or it's either the pelvis or it's like another limb. But in male whales, apparently that anchors the penis, so who knows? But that's
so it's literally a penis bone.
Mostly,
thanks for whales do have penis bones. A lot of mammals do.
And then, but look at that skull. It's wild.
That's not a skull. That's a claw.
Did I just see ichthyosaurs?
Yeah. So let's talk about convergent
swears.
evolution, right? These are reptiles that lived underwater a very long time ago and look a heck of a lot like whales.
Shout out to Mary Anning. She's real cool. Was real cool.
Tell me more about Mary Anning.
She sells seashells by the seashore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Collected the fossils.
But she grew up on the coast and basically ended up getting really good at finding fossils and selling them to tourists, and she got so good at it that the Royal Society took notice because she was a woman. They were like, we can't let her in. But then she continued, like, she found the first ichthyosaur, she found the first plesiosaur, I think. She's got basically a whole wall in the Natural History Museum is like pretty much all her finds.
Wow. Yeah, you know what they say? Too young to explore the Earth, too late to explore the Earth, too early to explore the stars. But just early enough to see.
They say that about the early to mid 1800s, do they?
No, they say that about now. You got to be in the right place at the right time to be able to dig up fossils, right?
That is very true.
Mary already did it.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's loads more fossils to find.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many missing links, right? Every time they find it's a bit less publicized now because they've like found enough of them that it's sort of expected that you'll eventually find more holes in the fossil record. But like when they found Archaeopteryx like 10, 15 years ago, everybody lost their minds. It was insane.
I lost my mind like 2 months ago when I was reading about Archaeopteryx.
Archaeopteryx is so cool.
So cool.
Can you tell I was a fossil kid?
Archaeopteryx is my absolute favourite dinosaur.
It's mine too.
But ichthyosaurs, there definitely are more like gaps in the record. We don't know exactly what like land animal they came from. We do know that they came from a land animal, but we don't know what. But they have a whole bunch of things in common with whales, as you can see on this handy diagram that I did not draw. Nasal openings are fairly kind of high up. Their eyes are adapted for like underwater and low light conditions, from what we can tell from looking at their skulls. They probably, this is a guess but seems likely, had hemispheric sleep so that they could still come up and breathe when they need to whilst they're sleeping. Hippos, by the way, come up whilst they're sleeping and go back down.
Like flamingos.
Wow.
Lots of different things in their spine, like their neck would not have been hugely mobile, whereas the back of their spine, would have been more separated, whereas there's in like land mammals, like kind of they're more fused towards the back, so they could, undulate better.
And it's this kind of motion as well, rather than this kind of motion like fish, because they've gone from like four-limbed walking land animals to.
They would have had a dorsal fin for, that is not something that exists in either of their ancestors, presumably. It's this big thing sticking up off your back just to keep you going. Yeah, whole bunch of finger bones in their, fins. And also, they gave birth to live young. They would have evolved from something that didn't give birth to live young, but they did give birth to live young. Wow. And again, tail first. And then also like the tail fluke that we've mentioned previously, that thing on the back. But the live young was the bit that was most interesting to me.
Yeah, well, there's some sharks that give birth to live young as well.
But sharks aren't reptiles.
Yeah, but like they're fish.
But most fish, they don't give birth. They lay eggs in a hole, and then someone's jizzes all over them.
I wonder why they give birth to live young then instead of eggs. I guess that means they can give birth to a larger animal that's more protected, so they'll probably have fewer offspring that they can take more care of for longer before it's like exposed to the elements and stuff, basically.
And then for whales, the other thing that they can do that they couldn't have done on land is just be fucking massive.
Yeah.
Absolutely enormous. A blue whale can be what is it like? Wait, let me find my notes because the numbers are huge. It's something like 100 feet long and 200 tons.
Don't do dimensions and area with us, right? You know what happens when we start talking about these sorts of things. We get them wrong and we get comments.
I love learning about like evolution and like how different modern animals arose.
Yeah,
I'm obsessed.
I just really love learning about like convergent evolution, because I think it's really fascinating because it shows you so much about like what different adaptations are for, like how they serve how they serve the animal in that specific environment. It's really cool.
Also divergent evolution, like over 50 million years this happened whilst their cousins were doing what? Growing antlers.
Yeah.
Thank you to Joe for joining us and listening to me ramble about how cool animals are.
No worries. It was really entertaining.
Time
thank you for coming, Joe. Thank you for coming.
Where can people find you?
You can find me. So I am on Twitter at twitter.com/wintermute. That's where I just sort of generally kind of shitpost and just be a clown online. You can find my games at that's wrong. At wintermute.itch.io. So I designed TTRPGs over there. I've also recently did a Kickstarter that's ended now, so you can't actually back it. So yeah, probably the itch page and the Twitter are the best places.
Good. I would recommend checking those out. I've played some of your games before and they're absolutely fab. So
yeah, they're wicked.
Yeah. Can people do dolphin impressions?
I'm gonna pass on that one.
I'm sure we've done this before. Have we done this before?
Yeah, I think we have.